Political game of chicken unfolding in Washington between President Trump and Nancy Pelosi, beginning with the House Speaker's request to put the whole State of the Union address on hold until after the government shutdown. Pelosi sending this note to the president. Sadly, given the security concerns, and unless the government reopens this week, I suggest that we work together to determine another suitable date after government has reopened for this address, or for you to consider delivering your State of the Union address in writing to Congress on January 29th. Now, the mainstream media praising Pelosi's quote-unquote power play. But a different story when the president did virtually the same thing. Mr. Trump pulling the plug on Pelosi's planned overseas trip using a government-funded military aircraft. He said no. The president writing, I am sure you would agree that postponing this public relations event is totally appropriate. It would be better if you were in Washington negotiating with me. If you would like to make your journey by flying commercial, that would certainly be your prerogative. Now, with the trip off, congressional lawmakers were left sitting on a bus, which eventually returned to the Capitol. There's the luggage, dropped off neatly. Here to respond, White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders. Sarah, welcome to Water's World.
Thanks, Jesse. It's good to be with you.
As always, the base is extremely pumped up about Trump's move with the plane. That's definitely gotten everybody excited. We now realize how intense this is. But now Nancy's team is saying that her safety was jeopardized because the White House leaked her travel plans. You care to respond to that?
Look, that's outrageous. Nobody in this building is going to do anything to put the safety and security of any American, particularly those in service, like Speaker Pelosi, in any type of danger. The idea that we leaked her commercial travel is absolutely absurd, and frankly, it's just dishonest. And any of these mainstream media folks that are praising the so-called power move by Nancy Pelosi, there's nothing powerful about the Speaker of the House questioning the ability of the United States Secret Service, who have said they have no problem protecting the president. Let's be real clear. The Secret Service protected the president when he was in Iraq. I'm pretty sure they can handle the job on Capitol Hill. I think, frankly, it is shameful and unbecoming of the Speaker to pull the action that she did in regards to questioning the United States Secret Service.
Now, where do we stand with the State of the Union, in your opinion? Is the president looking for other venues, a big rally, the Senate, or is he still planning on doing it in Congress?
Look, we'll keep you posted on the details. What I can tell you is the president's going to continue to do what he's done every day since taking office, and even before that, and that's communicating directly with the American people, whether it's through the State of the Union, whether it's through a rally, whether it's through taking questions from the press, whether it's through speeches across the country, whether it's through Twitter and other means of social media. The president's going to continue to get his message out, and that message is we have to protect our country, we have to protect our borders, and Nancy Pelosi needs to get serious about working with the president to see that get done.
Some of that message may be working. In the latest NPR poll, the president's approval rating among Latino adults is up 19 points. And if you listen to the Democrats on tape, they seem to be cracking a little bit when it comes to calling the wall immoral and ineffective. Let's listen and you can respond.
I don't think this is an issue of morality. It's an issue of does it work? A wall that protects people is not immoral.
Would you remove those existing barriers because you say they don't work?
No.
So they work there. So they work some places.
Obviously, they work some places.
Do walls work? Do barriers work?
In certain places, I think so.
I mean, the leadership says one thing. Other leaders in the Democratic Party say another thing. I don't know where they stand on walls and barriers. Do you?
I don't, and that's partly because they refuse to sit down at the table and have the conversation with the president. Nancy Pelosi is too busy taking vacations in Hawaii. Her team is going to Puerto Rico doing cocktail parties and Broadway shows. They need to be sitting down at the table with the president. They need to figure out how to open the government and protect our borders. We've laid out a plan. It's time for them to sit down and negotiate and work out a deal so that we actually are solving problems, not just playing political games. It's clear that Democrats believe that we need border security. You just played a number of them saying exactly that. We're hopeful that some of those people will come to the table, work with the president, and get this deal done, even if Nancy Pelosi won't.
All right, Sarah, thank you very much.
Joining me now with the latest on all the breaking news, White House Deputy Press Secretary Hogan Gidley. Good evening, Hogan.
Hey, Judge. Great to be with you.
All right. You had quite a week this week, didn't you?
Absolutely. It's nonstop at that White House.
Well, look, I want to talk about BuzzFeed in a minute, but I want to talk about first the reaction of the Democrats, not after the president laid out what he said this afternoon at about 4 o'clock, but what they said before he even spoke. Talk about that.
It's incredible. They did it when he gave the Oval Office address, where they had a canned speech when they didn't know what he was going to say. They did it again today, releasing information, denying the plan the president put out. They refused to work with him. They said the plan was bad when they hadn't even heard what he was going to say. So many people thought he was going to declare a national emergency,
right,
which he didn't do. So the point is, Democrats are hypocritical here, and they're disingenuous. They're not being truthful with the American people. They're against the president before they know what he's even going to say, and it tells you everything you need to know.
You know, I have to tell you, Hogan, I have in front of me, you know, the facts from the 2006 Secure Fence Act, the people who supported it, the Democrats voting yay, and the 2013 border security. It is stunning to me that they have the nerve to go out. I mean, I wouldn't be able to do it. To go out and say this is immoral, a wall is immoral, when 6 years ago it wasn't immoral and 13 years ago it wasn't immoral. It is so transparent.
Right. They said it was a manufactured crisis as well. Well, Barack Obama called it a crisis, a humanitarian one at that, from the Rose Garden. Was it manufactured then? Was it manufactured when they cast votes to protect our border? And like you said in the open, is it manufactured to those who've lost loved ones at the hands of illegal immigrants? Ask them that, and they would say it is not manufactured. We face a humanitarian crisis along our border and a national security crisis along our border. This president recognizes that, and he's trying to do something about it. When you give the Democrats the data and explain what's going on, it's like they don't believe it. They sure don't know it, and worse, it's like they don't care. And that's where we are right now. The president has tried repeatedly to come to the table to fix this, and Democrats are nowhere to be found.
They believe it, Hogan, and they know it. But as I said, their politics are above serving the people. Right. Their politics are above making sure that a federal employee doesn't have to go out and get a loan to pay the rent or the mortgage. It's about them and destroying that man on the screen right now. And it is infuriating. But
well,
yeah.
No, but you make the point. They pretend to care about these federal workers who are living paycheck to paycheck, saying to the American people, listen, these federal workers are in such bad shape. They've got to sell their own clothing to make ends meet. But the only clothing they appear to care about is resort casual, which was the attire recommendation for their jaunt down to Puerto Rico. I mean, first they go to Hawaii, then the Democrats party in Puerto Rico, and then, as you mentioned, Nancy Pelosi wanted a trip, a 6-day excursion to Europe, which would have ensured these 800,000 employees for the federal government lose their second paycheck in a row. That is unacceptable. The president asked her to postpone that trip, refused to let her use military air to try and keep her in this country so we could have a conversation to reopen the government and secure the border, and she still refuses to come to the table.
Well, you know, and I want to get to BuzzFeed, but the theater of all of this with the president. I mean, think about negotiations. I mean, I took labor law in law school. You know, you got management, and then you've got the unions. Okay, here we've got management, we've got the president. There's no one at the table, but he's still bending. He's still compromising. Let's go to BuzzFeed. The hate for this man is unbelievable. When BuzzFeed is willing to come out, and every Democrat this side of Hawaii is willing to come out and say impeach, impeach, when they publish a story that has no foundation, and when the special counsel comes out and says, hey, look, you know, there's no truth to this, the president never told Cohen to lie, then, I mean, can't the American people see through this?
I think they are starting to. The president has been saying fake news for a long time, and that was a perfect example of it. But it wasn't just the BuzzFeed story. It's that every other mainstream outlet carried it from sun up till sundown. I got calls at 5 o'clock in the morning asking me to comment on it. And the fact is, BuzzFeed itself ran a story, I should say, with no corroborating evidence whatsoever. Even the author of the piece, who has a history of political activism, came out and said he couldn't corroborate the piece either. They ran it anyway, and every other outlet picked it up. And not to mention the fact the subject was Michael Cohen, someone who is an admitted liar and a convicted felon who defrauded this government of millions of dollars. It's insane to see what the media are doing just to try and take away any wins from Donald Trump and to hurt his reputation. And now we know this past year, polling shows 90% of the coverage against this president is negative. I wonder how much of it's fake. I bet it's close to that number.
Can you imagine if only like 60% was negative?
It was 80%. If it was 80%, think how high he'd be in the polls. It's unbelievable what they try to do to this man who all he's done is left a lucrative business to come into this White House and do everything he can to make our lives better across this country. He's done that regardless of demographic. Wages are up. Unemployment is down. We have better trade deals. America is doing outstanding, and it's because of Donald Trump.
All right, Hogan Gidley, get some sleep. Had a rough week.
Much.
Former Governor Mike Huckabee, former governor of Arkansas, Fox News contributor. Governor, good morning to you. I want to show you the New York Post cover if you haven't seen it yet today. It reads simply, "You're grounded." Are they playing checkers or are they playing chess?
They're playing hardball, Bill, and that's the game that Nancy Pelosi started when she took the unprecedented step of saying, don't come over to the House for the State of the Union because it may not be safe, even though she never checked with anybody to see whether there was a problem with security. So when you start that game, you better understand that Donald Trump is always going to play on the same level of field. He's just going to play as rough as anybody else plays. And anyone who didn't get that during the presidential process and watch him excoriate 16 candidates, including me, or watch him take down Hillary Clinton. Why don't people understand this? He is not a guy that runs over to the corner and bites his lip and puts a tear in his eye. He's going to come out swinging. And I thought it was the appropriate response. I thought it was not only appropriate, and I thought it was very revealing that they were going to go on this 7-day junket right in the middle of a shutdown, which shows that they really don't care about 800,000 government workers. They care about themselves, and they care about stopping Trump. But it was also very, very funny.
Well, you would disagree with Lindsey Graham and what he said then. Here's what the senator
from South Carolina. Yes, I would. I totally
here's his quotes, Governor. One sophomoric response does not deserve another. Speaker Pelosi's threat to cancel the State of the Union is very irresponsible, blatantly political. President Trump denying Speaker Pelosi military travel to visit our troops in Afghanistan, our allies in Egypt and NATO is also inappropriate. Continue, Governor.
Well, I love Lindsey, but he's wrong. He's dead wrong about this for a couple of reasons. One, if you want to end the government shutdown, you cannot do it when the Speaker of the House, who has to call for a vote and who has to be involved in the negotiations, is gone for 7 days. That is going to absolutely prolong the shutdown. Lindsey is an institutionalist, and I understand that. Most legislators are. They want to defend their branch of government, and I get that. But this was not something that the troops overseas are dying to have. They can have that visit. They can take that wonderful excursion after they get the government back open. But it wasn't something that was pressing for them to do right now. And as the president said, if it's really this urgent for you, do what I do every day of the week. Get on a commercial flight. They go everywhere, including Afghanistan.
Okay. Ed Rollins writes this at FoxNews.com. I'll just read you the headline, okay? If Trump thinks Pelosi will back down when he counterpunches, he's going to be very surprised. What do you think of that, and ultimately who makes rather the next move, Governor?
Well, I've watched both of them fight. They're both good fighters. They're both experienced at fighting, and they both kind of enjoy it. But I've never seen anyone like Donald Trump when it comes to a person who, once he gets in the fight, he does not go over to the corner, ever. This is a guy who just keeps punching until the other side is either pummeled or just is tired of the battle. So, you know, if you want to ask me who do I bet on, that's an easy one. I would bet with the president on this one. And it's not about who wins the fight. Quite frankly, I'm disgusted with the whole thing. I want him to get the government back open. I want them to end this really ridiculous fight. We've spent more money in the government shutdown than the president was asking for in the original $5.7 billion.
You're right about that. I thought Brexit was confounding.
It's ridiculous.
We'll see the way we get out of this one. Sir, thank you for your time. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thanks.
Mike Huckabee with his reaction
You too,
on what's
Bill.
happening in D.C.